Before we get started, I would like to thank JM Tattoo Machines for sending these two machines here. I'm going to use these in an upcoming video. I get the question asked a lot, how can you tell the difference between a liner, a shader, and a color packer? And these machines look the same if you don't know what you're doing. If you're new, you might not know what you're looking at and what to look for. You might not be able to spot the little subtle clues that tell you whether this is a liner or a shader. And the trained eye can spot it right away. They know what machine is what just by looking at it. So I'll be explaining how to do that in an upcoming video. And again, thank you to JM Tattoo Machines. Nick Durant here with Tattoo University. And today I'm going to do a hand poke tattoo, or a stick poke, whatever you prefer to call it. And what you're looking at here is the evolution so far of a design I've made myself. Here's what I started with, and this is something that I made with some parts that I found in my garage. I think it's actually a part to a light that attaches to the ceiling, or a ceiling fan. If you've been watching the channel though, you know that I've been messing with 3D printers, and from this design I decided to make this, which is very basic. It works. Pretty much I took this concept and I just made it so I could print it out on a 3D printer. But this is very basic, very boring. So what I've done is I've started to print out different shapes and designs off of the original design. And you can see the more I do and the more I mess with it, the more I mess with these and the more they get used, I start to make improvements, which has led us to this design. This is our simple design here. I've made a little space here that your rubber band will fit into, and I'm about to show you how these go together. It's just like setting up your tattoo machine. Here's my needle. I give it a little bend in the middle, and I also like to give the needle group a little bend downwards, because that's going to help it stay down in the bottom of the tip while we are tattooing. It's going to hold it where it needs to go. So what we do is we just loosen up our tube vise here, and then we load this like we would load a normal machine. See how simple that is? And then we just take our eye loop here for our needle and we place it around this right here, which acts like our armature bar nipple. And you don't need a grommet because the size of that is pretty tight. Everything is tight so that you don't get any movement while you're tattooing. You don't want this to wiggle around. So sometimes the tube vise, you might need to give a little pressure to go in, but that's okay. It'll go in and it'll hold it nice and tight so you don't get any movement while you're tattooing. And we're just going to adjust our needle here to the correct distance right there, and then tighten this up. And we just tighten it up enough so it doesn't move around, it doesn't twist, it's where it needs to go. We're going to throw a rubber band around here. The rubber band just makes sure that that tip stays down in the bottom where it belongs, and that your needle doesn't move around. Again, we want as little movement as possible on this needle while we are tattooing. We're going to wrap this around, make sure this is nice and tight. That's in place there. And now this is ready to go, but I like to be extra safe and bag everything. Put a barrier protection on everything. So I'm going to bag these stick poke or hand pokers just to be on the safe side. These are designed for a serious tattoo artist. They are made with the artist in mind, how they might set things up, their comfort, and what makes things easier. I am a tattoo artist and I still enjoy doing stick poke tattoos. And I still enjoy doing tattoos the traditional way by hand, and that's why I've made these. How you feel? Good? Alrighty. Everybody in internet land, I like to make sure I get my stencil in first. Even if I get it in light, that way I can come back and either fix it or make it darker. If you lose your stencil, you're kind of screwed. So we don't want to do that. So right now, we're just making sure all our important parts of our stencil are clear and they're in the skin. You can always come back, build it up later. What you can see is I'm getting a little ink puddle going, and then I'm just kind of moving that puddle of ink the direction I need it to go while I'm poking with the needles. This is why these are so great, is because you can attach the tube and the tip and just move that ink around with your needle. The ink will stay with it, and you don't need to go back and forth to your ink cup so much. I can get a lot of work done on one dip here.
Don't call me a dip.
Okay, I'm also using different needles, just like if I was tattooing with a machine. I have a liner needle for cleaning up the edges, and then I have a mag for laying in the lines. Don't be afraid when your ink puddles up like this. Just use it to your advantage. Dip your needle into that and then keep going, keep tattooing. If you wipe that away, you're just wasting ink. You're wasting your time. Alrighty, so I know it's all out of focus, but deal with it. This is a straight mag. It goes straight across. Regular mag, whatever you want to call this. Straight, the needles go straight across. You turn it on its edge and you line with it. You can line with a liner needle, but you get one little poke. You get one little dot. If you turn your mag on its side, you get several needles going in there, which will help you lay your line in quicker. And if you notice, you can just poke, but if you do that, you get a lighter line. If you poke and kind of pull up or give it a little push so that you're forcing the skin to kind of pull some of that ink off of your needles, you'll get a darker line. If you're going for a line, that's what you want. I'm kind of going in and then pushing to the side and then coming out. You see I'm kind of working this direction so I can use my hand to poke in, push a little bit, and then out. That's the method here. The method to the madness. And again, I got this nice blob of ink on the skin here. Just gonna use it. Get me a nice dark outline. And then come in here and outline some of this inside. Right now I'm just focusing on the line work. If you learn the basics of tattooing, you'll be better off. You'll know how to do things even if you've never done them before. Because you're just gonna go, I'm just gonna use what I know to get the job done no matter what. I'm not some person who just ordered this in the mail and started poking on somebody. I see a lot of mistakes and people post those videos, hand poking mistakes, because the idea is you don't just get a needle and some ink and start jabbing somebody. You need to have that training and that skill if you want it to look good. You will notice I'm not doing this in an unsanitary manner. I am wearing gloves. I have my bloodborne pathogens training. I have experience as a tattoo artist. I also had medical experience from some of the jobs I've had. Learn a thing or two before you start poking on somebody. Don't just jump in there and start doing it thinking you're going to be a pro when you got no skills and no art experience. Yes, you will. You better poke on yourself, because if you do it on somebody else, they're going to be very unhappy with the result. One of the questions I always get, so I'm going to address it again, is do I tattoo at a 45 or a 90-degree angle? The answer to that question is yes, you can do both. Depends on what you are doing and what kind of marks you are trying to make. If I'm trying to lay in some solid marks, I'm going to go at a 45. I'm going to go in, I'm going to push over and up. What I'm trying to do is get into the skin and then kind of wipe that ink onto the inside of the skin, so I get as much ink as possible in there. But if you want some shading, you can go at a 90 and just poke away, because you're not going to get all the way in there. So you're going to get some shading, or you're going to get in there but not as much. You know, as you tattoo, you need to move to where you're comfortable and to where you can do your work. You also need your client to do the same. You also need your client to be as comfortable as possible so that they will sit there as long as possible. Okay, some of the misconceptions about hand poking is that it hurts more. This technique, I hate to disappoint, but it barely hurts at all. And it will heal up really quick. Sometimes it doesn't even look like it's going through the healing process. It just looks like it just healed as soon as the tattoo is finished. And this is what I keep beating you over the head with about tuning your machines a little slower. The less damage you do, the better the tattoo will heal. So I have most of the stencil in here, which is allowing me to be a little more loose. So I can come in and make marks where I want to. The stencil is just a guide, but as an artist you need to make decisions as to how you want this piece to look. And the more decisions you make like that, the more your style is going to show up in the tattoo. And it's going to represent your artwork, and people are going to see that, and people who like that will come to you because they like the way your artwork looks. Once you're comfortable enough to make decisions like that while you're tattooing, you should do that. Maybe as a beginning artist, you might want to stick to what's on there. But if you go back into the dark areas, you can make those darker, but then bring your needle out, bring your marks out a little bit, and bring that shading out. You know, tattooing is an art form. It's just like drawing and painting and charcoal, whatever, you know, whatever art forms. You're still doing line work. Like if you're doing pencil drawings, you're still doing bold lines like you're doing in a comic book. You're blending like if you were a painter, blending your colors together to make other colors. So if you want to pick up a tattoo machine, a hand poker, a stick poke, my advice is first pick up a pencil and a piece of paper and start working on that. You're not going to make yourself a great tattoo artist by getting a hand poke set in the mail and start poking on people. That's not going to make you a good tattoo artist. What's going to make you a good tattoo artist is if you go to school or practice your art and then you pick up a tattoo machine. Your art skills transfer over to your tattooing skills. Because I earned an art degree before I started tattooing, I didn't make as many horrible mistakes on myself as I've seen other people do when they first started, because you know what looks good and you know what looks bad, and you just have to find out how to do that with your tattoo machine. You know the theory behind it, you just need to learn the equipment. The more you learn about tattooing, the better you will be, and you need to learn every area, every aspect of tattooing. And that will make you a better tattoo artist. Just so you guys know, it takes longer to do these damn tattoos when I'm doing a video at the same time. If I'm not talking to you guys, it goes a lot faster. And you can see I'm making pretty good time on this. Well, you guys can't see, but how long have we been at this? If you guys really want to see how this works on a big scale, look at the traditional Japanese tattooing. And we're pretty much finished. Everybody at home, like and subscribe and all that jazz. And
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, check me out on Instagram, NickDurant_tattoos, and see some of these hand pokers that I'm making. Okay, I'm back again. Tricked you again. I still have not left. Okay. So, we finished tattooing. Now we need to clean up. So just like our tattoo machines, we remove the barrier protection, loosen up the tube, remove the rubber band. I don't keep anything. I throw everything away. So that rubber band goes in the trash. We lift the eye of the needle up so it comes out, and we pull it out of the tube, and that goes into our biohazard container. And then we just remove the tube and grip like so, and that gets disposed of. And now we're going to spray these down with Maticide, our germicidal solution. And just so you guys know, these are 3D printed, and people might be scared because they don't know the process of 3D printing or how it works, or they might have the wrong idea about 3D printing. It's plastic. This is made out of plastic, and you can clean it with germicidal solution. And you might think, oh, it's plastic, it's frail, or it's gonna break very easily. That's why I made this a certain way. I made it with supports. And also, some of the settings, when it was 3D printed, I cranked them up to make it stronger. Also, if you can see how shiny this is, this poker right here, it has an epoxy coating on this to make it even stronger. So I've done things to these so that it's not like your average 3D printed item. It's stronger. It's a lot stronger than that. And this one is just painted with enamel. But this can take some abuse because of the way I printed it out and the way it's made. And you can spray it to clean it off. And just like your tattoo machines, you don't just wipe that off. You let it sit for about 10 minutes and let it get in all those little nooks and crannies there to make sure it kills off anything that you might have in there, which I know there's probably nothing on here because I put it in a baggie, but you're better safe than sorry. And I'm just doing this to show you that you can clean these with the Maticide and use these just like you would use any piece of tattoo equipment in a tattoo shop. The reason why I came up with these is because I felt like the stick and poke or hand poke tattooing equipment was lacking. It didn't really make sense. It was just items that you attach to a needle. And you can see this is a lot easier to set up than getting a string and trying to tie a needle to a pencil or a chopstick or tape or whatever you're using. You know, because you can clean these, it's a lot safer to use these than most of the equipment out there that people are using to do stick pokes. Because sometimes it's wood or it's a piece of equipment that you can't clean because it absorbs materials, and you can clean these off. So this is a lot safer solution to use when you're hand poking.